For years, I've had a screen mounted into a workbench in my garage makerspace. It was to save me from craning my neck up high, and it's always been plugged into a low power computer like a Raspberry Pi. But I've been needing a more powerful PC in this space that can double as a home server. The PC can't fit above the screen, the network cabinet is chockers, so it must go below the screen into the workbench. The first duct prototype. That's gonna be so good. What the heck? I can move the motherboard forwards and back. I'm just really excited to see it coming together. Oh my goodness. Thing is, my optimistic delusion thought that by using the knowledge from past projects, this wouldn't be that hard. See, I've built a completely custom desk and I've built a completely custom PC. Surely it wouldn't be that difficult to combine the two. Oh no! The bottom edge will actually touch the radiator tubes. It is not really helpful, and it hits it. Gaming computers like to mimic high performance cars. Gaming laptops typically have angled vents that look like the back of a sports car. Gaming chairs are typically a racing seat slapped on 5 wheels instead of 4. We tend to associate something that looks like it's from something that's high performance with actually being high performance. And so I haven't seen anyone do this idea yet, but I reckon it's gonna look tough as. My Pinterest feed is pretty much tech and cars, and this is exactly what sparked the idea for this build, an exhaust manifold. See, what if I put the motherboard in the center so that the graphics card and CPU's water cooling radiator were symmetrically spaced? Both have 3 fans, so there could be 3 ducts each side for airflow. And since it will be where I build things, I can add magnetic filters that are easily cleanable. I think it's gonna work. It's been in my head. I've just put it into 3D modeling software for the first time. We can play around with it. Do some simulation, which is also known as real life testing, because I don't have simulation software for this. All right, good luck. ASUS has sponsored majority of the computer components, but the motherboard they sent isn't normal. See, not only do I have to figure out the height with a fan on top of the motherboard for the rear exhaust, but when we flip it over, my God, that's beautiful. Yeah, this is their newest BTF or Back to the Future motherboard, where majority of the ports are underneath, so you don't see them. This means I need to figure out clearance for not only the head of each plug and cable bend radius underneath throughout the frame. Thankfully, at the thickness required, my knee didn't hit the frame in my general seated position. The metal's here. Woo! Big thank you to MakerStore Australia for sponsoring the hardware in this build. I get so excited. Buddy, it's at this stage that it feels real. To join the V-slot aluminium extrusion, I've picked a variety of hardware. For strength connections, I've used the standard sliding T-nuts. Otherwise, for non-load bearing, I went with the thinner option. Both need to be inserted at each end, but slide freely within the channel. Unlike the ball spring variant, which has a spring-loaded ball, but also a curved base. So it can be rolled into place at any point along the channel and will stay in place thanks to being spring-loaded. And finally, just like my previous PC build, I'm using the drop-in and twist version for the motherboard standoffs. And by borrowing the T-nuts profile, we have these hidden quantum brackets for the motherboard's beams. Just have to try not lose the teeny grub screws which lock them in place. And for the 4 main corners, I'm using heavy-duty brackets. And what I love most about this process is I simply have to assemble it. MakerStore make it easy where you can pick out the parts for your project, but also provide a custom cut list for the metal. So once it arrives, you're good to go. But it was as I placed the top bar, I realized the measurement I provided may not work. So I can take the bar and get it into the corner. But this little like circle bit, it's like a rivet for the mounts that these side edges go on. And it hits it. I'm always amazed that even if I spend ages modeling and planning and measuring everything, when it comes to it, I realize, oh yeah, there's these teeny little circle rivet bits on the sides that I didn't account for.
Prototype.
Look like risers. Because the motherboard has ports on the back, I can't sit it flat on the desk. Ooh, look at this. I can move the motherboard forwards and back, and then left to right in the slots. When I built my first completely custom PC, I simply looked at the original mounting plate for the power supply and replicated the holes for my own laser cut mounting plate. But this time is different.
Just covered.
Thankfully, I can just move the bar.
Oh no! The legs of the desk.
The workbench legs, they're thick. They go right around the corner where this plug will be. It covers the on-off switch for the power supply, but that works. I know it's not all going to fit first try, but it would be nice if it just did. The poster just dropped off a box and I've read the side. I'm in shock. I just want to look at this. I just want to stare at this myself for a sec. Man, thank you for watching my stuff, bro, because without you, I guess this, yeah. Oh, sick! Freaking ruler to PCB. I've been thinking of making one of these. Dude, I didn't know I was getting these little bonuses. What the heck? This is metal here, the outside edge is metal. There's a full-on fan on the back. My days! The dude at Asus just told me he was sending something that was better than I had. I was expecting 5080, not a 5090. This is insane. How am I gonna fit this in my desk? Awesome. In, out. So a lot of stuff isn't fitting how I thought it would. Like the display ports are kind of closer than I would have expected to this bar. But what's working in my favor, completely change where the mounting points are meant to be and find a fix. Not only am I trying to symmetrically space the components from a top-down view, I also want the intake ducting to be the same height. Thankfully, mounting the radiator was straightforward. I simply created a U-shaped bracket that could go on each end and be bolted to its support beam. And then with measurements of the graphics card and measurements of the radiator in place, I could then 3D print a little riser so that the height would match. But in typical fashion with this project, the moment something went right, something went wrong. And that was removing the stock fans. See, these blow air through the radiator, and I need it to be sucked through, which means we need to add reverse blade fans, which just happen to be thicker than the ones that came stock. Thankfully, I have longer bolts from the previous build, but that wasn't the end of it. So this reverse blade fan is wider than the stock one, which means that the bottom edge will actually touch the radiator tubes if I try and twist them upwards when I try and get them as close to the motherboard as possible. I don't know what to do. And honestly, it's not really possible to make the gap symmetrical because the graphics card is so close compared to where we could even possibly get a radiator. The plan I've come up with is to add fan spaces, which would make it all thicker and hopefully create the illusion that the radiator is actually closer to the motherboard. I really surprised myself with this solution because it may just work. Okay, so with the intake on the radiator, we'll switch the fan to a pull so air will come in through a filter and up through the pipe. However, this pipe needs to be 120 mil down to something like 110, so there's a gap between each pipe so the cables coming from the motherboard can make their way to the power supply unit. I also need to cut up a panel to hide view of the cables from above and for the filter to attach at the bottom. And so I think I'll just start with the next part that's needed. The first duct prototype. It's so easy to freaking puncture radiators. You don't want to like have the screw go too long. Oh, shit. I knew, truth, bro. I don't even know what to say. I knew I was going to be excited. I knew I was going to be very excited. That's going to be so good. Prusa hooked me up with their Galaxy Black filament for this project. It has a bit of glitter, so it matches painted metal well with that slight speckle. So I was about to take Bruce out for a walk, but these prints are finished. And look at this. That one's PLA, this one's PET G, so the gloss is different. This is 120mm fan down to like 110mm, but a 120 outer. So we put this 120 filter, should be able to go over this part, which will become the intake. Perfect. There's like one downside to this motherboard having all the ports at the back. So when this is laying down, this is X-axis, power point right there, where these mounting points are. This is Y-axis, power plug right here, where these mounting points are. So that's why new cases that are made for these BTF motherboards have pass-through holes in the back for power points. But for me, trying to like align with a bar, because I can only go X or Y axes, it is not really helpful. So if I can create a mount that kind of, an elbow, that's the word I'm thinking of. I need to create a mount that's not just like a little riser, but instead an elbow, so it can kind of come off the side of the metal and then go up to hold the motherboard, and that way when plugs go down, they don't hit the metal bar. Time for the fun part. When I say time for the fun part, I mean the part where I have to think about, will the things fit? Because these are just computer components that go straight in. Now, firstly, I am incredibly grateful to the sponsors for this build. It would not happen without them. ASUS, when they emailed me, I was like, sounds great, bro. I can't afford a CPU right now, especially to the caliber of the components that you're sending. So they organized for this AMD Ryzen 9900 X3D to be sent out. And then I reached out the team group and they sent the rest. So we've got a 4TB PCIe Gen 5 NVMe drive with up to 12.5 gigabytes per second read and up to 11 gigabytes per second write. So their GC Pro will be system and software plus a bit of storage, because well, it's 4TB. And then there's 2TB PCIe Gen 4 NVMe drive with read up to 7.4 gigabytes per second and write up to 6.8 gigabytes per second. G70 Pro will be extra storage, and that will make sense when you see that I've got 96 gigabytes of RAM. This thing's gonna be running some VMs, so two 48GB sticks of DDR5 at 6800 megahertz with CL36 timings will be very useful for that. I'm trying to figure out where the graphics card's intake will go. What a weird thing to say. But so it's 70mm from the edge of the graphics card from the PCI slot. Well, it's actually pretty close to where I was expecting it to be. To try and achieve symmetry from above, I've marked where the center of the frame is and aligned the CPU with that center mark. By moving the radiator as close to the motherboard as possible, by bending the pipes as much as I can, we can get a clear measurement of how far the graphics card needs to be extended by so that the intake ducts are even on each side. So it's time to try and put the PC inside. It's going to need some modifications. Oh wait, that can slide. I just realized when I was trying to move this stuff that I could potentially slide laser cut material storage into this other workbench. Saves unstacking it all. And it's a little bit higher in the middle where it joins. It's like gotten stuck halfway. This is not making it any faster, I don't think. Yes! Keep going, you good thing! Yes! Oh, far out. Now is it the right height to go into this drawer? Yes. Oh, that's bloody beautiful. I don't think I saved any time. Whew. Now it's like a PC inside. Step one, that, open. Don't need this drawer. See how like it hits that edge there? Right, so you take off like that much so it can come up and actually have the bench top sit on top of it. All right, perfect. Now we need to see if this full frame will fit. So this can come up. I'm just really excited to see it coming together. So I need to drill some mounting holes into these legs. Wait a minute. Safety first, fam. Don't want a metal flake in the eye. So the monitor's on button is that hole, and that's perfectly in line with the CPU. Nice. Alright, let's give this a slight lock in. I can just see this all coming together so well. Normally you'd plug power for the graphics card in at the top, either with a dongle or dedicated cable. But this is a BTF edition, so it has the BTF adapter that aligns with a port on the motherboard. So the power for the graphics card is actually passed through the motherboard from a port underneath. Never thought I'd see the day where I chuck a spirit level on a graphics card, but I wanted to double check that there would be even pressure across its slots. Oh no, like a little tab bit sticking off the CPU prong. I can't believe the CPU power won't plug in because there's a teeny bit of plastic on the cable that hits the metal bar. So I packed some washers between the elbow for now, and that created just enough clearance. It's just crazy how these are things you would never ever encounter building a normal custom PC in a case, especially with the ports on top. It's definitely in. Okay, so all the power is wired in. Let's hit start. The graphics card's lighting up and there's no power plugged into the top. That's cool. I can hear the pump has air in it, so I'm going to lift the cooler out. It sounds like the pump has now moved the bubbles to the top of the radiator. AMD Ryzen 9900X 3D. HDMI's in the GPU, so that's working. F1 for BIOS. Yeah, we're in business. And now it's time for the cherry on top. Ooh, what the heck, man? Okay, that's gonna look mad. I have very much bitten off more than I can chew. I've put so many hours into trying to finish this project, but sometimes life happens and I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels at this stage, so I'm going to take a short break because I know when this is done, and it is done right, it will look incredible. And a huge thank you to the sponsors which have made this project possible. I would just love for the process to just once be smooth, but at the same time, I probably wouldn't do it then. I've got to love, for some reason I love the pain